that is a zebra on the ice, Bill.
How did he get on the ice?
Amazing.
They still can't get him off the ice. This is crazy.
Here comes all the zebras. It's a zoo out there.
You can't do that.
Doesn't matter. Get in the box.
Welcome everyone to Chirping Zebras. Baby, we'll all embrace the zebra side.
Welcome, everyone, to Chirping Zebras, episode 85. Mark Riley, virtually alongside Gino Binda Jr. and Josh Dolan. And we want to, right off the hop, remind you to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all the social medias, the Instagram, the Facebook, and, of course,
The TikTok.
thank you, Gino. We also want to thank our sponsors before we get into these things. We are sponsored by Damon Financial. For over 24 years, Damon Financial has helped families and businesses and owners grow and protect their wealth and with clear, trusted strategies. From retirement planning and investments to tax-efficient solutions, they deliver no-nonsense advice focused on your goals. You can call the number on the screen, 508-321-2101 today to schedule your meeting with Damon Financial. Or you can visit them at damonfinancial.com. And we also want to thank the Referees Crease, one-stop shop, one-stop solution for all your things hockey officiating-wise, recruitment, development, advancement, assignments, and payroll. Also want to thank Townsend Hockey, our buddy Graham Townsend and his hockey school, along with Travis Jackson, a friend of the show, Action Jackson.
Jackson.
Yes, he was a guest on the show, had a viral video, and as a friend of the show, threw us some money to help out the cause. So we appreciate Travis. Of course, he was my my tour guide up in Alaska when I went up last summer. So
When I flew anytime you flew into Alaska, Jackson picked you up, dropped you off from the airport. Even if he wasn't working with you that series, he would come pick you up, take you to lunch, making sure you were all set. And then he worked at this bar called the Pioneer Bar. It was like a bar out of Star Wars. And then he'd take you there. You know, you're safe. You just put your back up against the wall. He'll get you your drinks, and then you go home.
yeah, no, he is salt of the earth, man. He is the best, and we want to thank him for sponsoring as well. And also Kevin Flynn last week, just hilarious.
Yes, funny guy.
Yeah,
he can ramble. He can go. He's another one.
Yeah, we're the first set of yoga pants we have printed are going right to him. So
Yes.
they have to. I was real quick. I was up at the Northeast Sports Card Expo up in Portland last weekend, and I was a celebrity, which is hilarious in and of itself. But Gigi Marvin was there, Olympic gold medal winner, and hopefully a future guest. But I met a guy, huge fan of the podcast, huge fan of my comedy, actually, which is cool. And his son, 13 years old, just started refereeing, Grayson Bushy. And I said I'd give him a shout out. His son listens all the time, too.
Oh, right on.
And has said he's learned a bunch from us, or at least our guests. And so I wanted to give him a shout out before we get into it. So keep up the good work, Grayson.
Right on.
Things are going well for him. So I think I covered everything business-wise.
Very good.
Got everyone
Let's get right into it.
So we're super excited to have our guest today. He has been involved with hockey his whole life, and he has done it all. Coached, he's been in the front office, he scouted, he played, he's done broadcasting, and I think the only thing he hasn't done is refereeing, but we're going to talk to him about that. We want to welcome Pierre McGuire to the show. Pierre, welcome to the Zebras.
Hey, Mark, Gino, and Josh, it's great to visit with you guys. A lot of nights behind the bench, I actually thought I was officiating, yeah. In fact, one night in New York, it's a good story. We were in a really tight game with the Rangers. Colin Campbell was coaching New York. I was coaching Hartford, and they scored. And I think it was Messi that scored, and there was definitely interference on the play. And I started like, "You son of a bitch!" And I was screaming. Rob, you know, in New York, how loud it gets. Rob Schick's over on the far corner, and he comes over to the bench. He goes, "You got to bench Miner." I go, "For what?" He goes, "I saw you swearing at me." I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." We were always friendly, but I was mad at him that night, but then after the game, we calmed down. But I was like, "Oh, I couldn't believe he actually saw me." I said, "What are you, a lip reader now?"
Yeah,
Like, it was
yeah.
Well,
unbelievable.
he knew he missed the interference, and he knew what you were saying.
Yeah, he probably, Gino, you're probably spot on. Anyways,
I know. How
so
do you
many
see
good memories
someone?
with officials. So many good memories with officials over the course of my career.
I was going to ask you, like, because you've interacted with them pretty much from, every aspect of hockey. And so, what was in what role was it easiest to deal with them? And because sometimes, even I don't agree with my calls.
Yeah. You know, Mark, I think probably when I was working between the benches for NBC for all those years, 16 years total on the national
Wow.
show in the States, you get to know the linesmen, you get to know the officials, and you see how hard they work and you see how they lay themselves out there, the potential for injury, especially for the linesmen. I don't think people realize in the NHL just how full contact a job that really is. So you got to know a lot of guys, and unlike the teams, we didn't charter out after the game. So we stayed at a lot of the same hotels and frequented a lot of the same establishments and go out for dinner in the same places. So you got to build up relationships. But I don't think anything prepared me, Gino and Mark, more than the year we were in Edmonton and Toronto for the pods.
Mm.
And so I was in one hotel with all the linesmen and referees in Edmonton. I was there for 2.5 months. Every morning I'd go to the gym, and every morning I'd see everybody there, all the referees, all linesmen training. And I'd say to myself, I don't think people at home realize how professional these guys are, how hard they work, and how serious they take their craft. It gave me a whole new perspective. And that was, I'm going to say 21 or 22 years into my
Mhm.
career. I was actually longer than
Wow.
that. It was probably 28 years into my career. So it's kind of neat to see that.
Yeah, these guys are professionals through and through. Like Brian Panchitz, he's one. I worked the USPHL with him, and I always bring him up to young kids. Like I lived in an Omaha apartment. When I went to Chicago, I always stayed in his apartment. And that kid would get up, have his coffee, go to the gym, come home, eat his breakfast, have a light little snack, eat lunch, take a nap, do the game. Like he was a robot. And that's that professionalism, that day to day, that discipline just carried him right to the National Hockey League. And like you just see what he put into it. And I wasn't even close to doing that. And you see the difference in someone making it. And that was earlier in my career. And then I started figuring that out when I started working pro hockey. Then you get into that routine and you figure that out. But he was already like a step ahead of me going in, because he got hired a couple of years after that. But I was just new into my journey at that point. But when you see someone like that, you kind of look up to that, and that's where you want to be and what it takes to get there.
Well said. No, Gort, I don't know if you guys watch any of the guys train or skate, but it marvels me from when I started in the league in 1990 to where we are now, just how well everybody skates, whether you're a
Mm.
referee or a linesman. And the thing where I think it really changed, and you guys might be able to speak to this, when I coached in the league when we had one referee and two
Oh
linesmen.
yeah.
And I also coached in the league when we went from one referee to two referees and two linesmen. And the thing that was really apparent when we went to two was how hard it was for the official, the lead official, when the play would attack him, he had to go
Mm.
backwards. He had to keep his face on the play. Well, we all talk about how hard it is for defensemen to play in the National Hockey League because they're going backwards and somebody's
Mhm.
attacking them a million miles an hour. Think about it if you're the referee. Like that changed the whole dynamic. And now I see these guys, it's so effortless. It's phenomenal to see how good they are. It really is.
Oh yeah, the positioning now where it's broken down, because now you know the system. It's been in the league for what, 20 years now, probably. And yeah, now you know how to go and where to anticipate and know where the spots are and be comfortable in that. When they're coming down at you 100 miles an hour, you need to know where to go before you even get there. So it's all about anticipation and reps, really.
Yeah, we both. Well, I went in. I was in the one man system for the 1 and 2 for my whole career up until I took a break, and the 4 man was a little different for sure. And you you go 100 miles an hour forward, and that's a lot easier than,
Yeah, yeah,
than
no,
going
it is.
backward,
Think about
for
how
sure.
hard it is, Mark, to cultivate a defenseman to play at the National Hockey League level.
Yeah.
It's really hard. We complain we don't have enough right defensemen in the National Hockey League, and it takes guys 5 years after they get drafted to make it. Like, it is really hard. I think it's the same for a referee. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the model they're using now, grabbing ex-players, right out of the American League or Europe, that's why the skating, I think, is a lot better. But the judgment and the ability to manage a game and referee, it's kind of taking a hit from, the old school. I mean, you still have your Wes McCauley's, your Chris Rooney's, but some of the newer guys, they just don't have the game count to know what's going on.
Well, I can tell you this. I tried to recruit Macaulay out of Toronto when he was playing high school hockey there, and he ended up going to Michigan State. He was a draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings. But, I laugh all the time. I see him out there, and people say, oh, yeah, Wes, this, what. I tell people all the time, he was a heck of a player.
Right.
Like, people don't realize that. He was a heck of a player. Another one of my former players Jeff Chikrin tried to be a referee. And Jeff was as tough. I'm telling you guys right now, he was as tough as anyone was playing back in his vintage. And I remember one night we went into Calgary and they had some guys messing around. And we had a pretty good team in Pittsburgh, back-to-back cups. And I just remember him right off. Scotty Bowman said to me, tell Chikrin he's going to take the first face-off as a winger because we knew it was coming. And so Chick knew too. We didn't have to tell him. He just said, yeah, you're playing left wing tonight to start. He said, I understand. I get it. Right off, he and Paul Krause had an unbelievable fight, like off the charts. And then he transitioned his career well, I think, into officiating. And then he just said, you know what? I'm going to do the TV thing with the Florida Panthers instead. But it shows you that, to your point, Mark, I think the league's been smart about approaching these former players. I do think it makes it a little bit easier.
I miss the days where, back in the day, the Kerry Frazier's, the Paul Stewart's, the Andy Van Hellemans, the Don Koharskis, 3 of which have been on the show. That personality, like when they walked into the rink, you knew exactly what you were getting. Whether you liked it or not, at least you knew what you were getting. And now with the 4-man and some of these newer guys, I think that's what frustrates some of these teams because they don't know what they're getting. Because the
really
experience
well said, and I completely agree. So we used to track, Kerry would call stick infractions. Billy would let holding infractions go. Everybody had their own thing, and we could track it, and we would warn the guys. But when you only had one referee to worry about, it wasn't that hard. And then the biggest thing we have going now, because the game's so fast and there's so much contact, to Mark's point, Gino and Josh, we got all these new guys coming in halfway through the year, and you're like, what's his thing? We don't even know. And I remember this. I was up for a bunch of GM's jobs probably 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And I remember talking to Billy McCreary, and I said, Billy, I have so much respect for you. You treated me unbelievable when I was a coach. You were a great official. The games that I coached in the Stanley Cup final, you called them, and you were amazing. Would you ever think about being a scout? And he said, what? I said, would you ever, if I get one of these GM jobs, I'm going to hire you if you would be up to it. And he goes, I never thought of that. I said, yeah. And he said, why would you do that? I said, because you could help me with the officials. You could teach our players what the rule book is, because most of the players don't even know what the rules are. Neither do the coaches, by the way. And I think the biggest thing is you could follow what players do and don't do well because you're an unbiased eye. That's the beauty of officials. I truly believe that. Referees have an unbiased eye. They don't care who wins and loses. They care as long as they make the right call. And that's what I love about officials is that they're unbiased when it comes to evaluating talent.
I'll tell you, my daughter's hockey team, they hate me because every time they're like, oh, I'm like, well, that was the right call. And even if it's like going against us, I'm like, hey, it's the right call. Like, what do you want me to do? But when it's the wrong call, they're all over me too. And I'm like, yeah, they messed that up too. Like, what do you want me to do? They 10. Good. But yeah, it's funny.
The cool thing about officiating, because I played, I coached, I officiated. Each one has a different perspective, and very different in some ways. But as a referee, you can see the game so much differently, and you see breakouts develop. You see forechecks and how they work, and you see what works and what doesn't work. And that's what was cool for me, was to see the game from a completely different angle, after I stopped playing and then started refereeing. And I think I mean, it's such a great idea to have a referee as a scout. I mean, because we see, I can tell you who has hockey IQ and who doesn't 2 minutes into a hockey game based on what they do. And so that's a cool thing. I never thought of that either. Gino, I might have another job I can apply for.
Well, I always said, why don't you put an ex referee in the video replay booth for challenges for the coaches, right? And I think that would be beneficial than just some guy yelling down, and I think your percentages would go way up.
I want to throw this by you guys because I had an idea about 5 years ago, and I got it from watching soccer. And what I think is we should go to having 2 linesmen and 1 referee back on the ice. But we should have a 4th official sitting upstairs with the ability to communicate with the on-ice referee. And the players need to know that. So the referee can track the plays on the puck. The referee upstairs doesn't watch the puck. He watches away from the puck. And when you sit upstairs, you get the broad view. And if the players knew that, if the players knew there was an eye in the sky watching them all the time, I think the behavior would be better, and I think it would be more room on the ice, and I think it would prolong NHL careers because referees that got hurt could actually work upstairs and would make guys last longer.
Interesting, because Chrissy Langley from the NCAA, I'm a supervisor official with Atlantic Hockey America, and I'm both the men and the women. And the NCAA national championship is played at Penn State this year, and she wants to introduce the mics, officials wearing mics during games, right? So we can communicate to each other. And my brain went like all over the place with it. I was like, I don't know if it's good or bad. My instinct was no way, because hockey's instant, right? You only have a couple split seconds, like, oh, he toe picked, or you get that sight line. But like, I can just see some linesmen jumping in there when they shouldn't be, and all that kind of stuff, right? And I think maybe, like, because hockey's fast, and I don't know if that would work in that sport or not. I don't know. I would love your opinion on that.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a try. I don't think we do it in a championship series. I think we do it in
Right.
preseason games. I think
Right.
I would even experiment with it. I'd like to see it in major junior, maybe in Canada, because it gives you a better vibe for it. But the one thing I'm really comfortable telling you guys is that I think we're seeing way too many injuries with officials. We're seeing way too many. I think part of it's because it's so fast and guys are so big, and we just don't have that many good guys coming through the system. They're being rushed into NHL stuff.
Yes.
And it's not that I don't think they're good. I just think they're being rushed. It's like when you have players that are being rushed into the NHL, you see what happens. It's not good. And so I think we need more time for development. I think that's one of the ways, a compromise way of doing it is 1 official on the ice, 1 upstairs, and then guys could become better and better at it.
You know what? I kind of like the idea. I don't know if I'd like everyone being mic'd up and talking to each other, because that, my ADHD brain would, I
Same.
think, lose my mind. But
I don't
someone
think we need to do that for
upstairs,
linesmen, though, right, Mark and Gino? The linesmen don't need to have that. I think it's just communication from the man upstairs to the referee. They're the only 2 that communicate.
yeah. I was thinking too, like, why? I mean, you could even extend it if the man upstairs is calling it. If the linesman can hear it, I don't know. It's a really interesting idea, and I think, we're heading to something. Something's got to change, and rushing these guys in. I think some of the injuries come from positioning. I think
That's a great point.
we got away from it from even grassroots USA Hockey. We used to teach like the corner, work in the corner, work in the goal line, work in the boards. And now they've gotten away with that to the point where there's supervisors in the NCAA that tell guys, well, you got to be swinging the net, you got to be moving, because that makes you look like you're doing something. Completely counterproductive. I'm telling you, it's insane. And the guys swinging out of the corner into the circle, and just all the movement they have that they don't need, and because they don't have the game count, and they're also not being taught all along. Back in the day, I was told if someone went behind me, that was it. Like, you could lose a playoff game, or in a camp, you could lose the championship game for letting a player go behind you. Like, that's how strict they were about it. And there was less injuries back in the day. So I don't know. I think but the eye in the sky, big brother watching. I think I like that.
I mean, with the expansion of everything in hockey, it's pulled everything down. Like you said, like these guys are getting rushed to the National League. We're rushing guys into college hockey. We're rushing guys into juniors, and it's a trickle down effect. And I'm telling you, I'm going to cookouts, and you what is it? What's a 19? They're 6 years old, right? We're getting bugged saying how bad the officiating was at a 6-year-old game. I'm like, you're lucky there was even official there. Never mind anything else.
Yeah.
I was like, it's bad. It's not bad everywhere. It's getting better, and we're putting the right resources in. I think to make it better, and it's just patience and time, and I think it's heading in the right direction.
That's good. That's good to hear. My son played at a pretty high level and still plays, obviously. And I always told him, I said, if I ever see you disrespect an official during a game, you're gonna have a tough time to get home. I used to tell him that, and I don't know how many parents do that.
Not many.
The one thing I can tell you, like, I'd go to a game and I sit with my friends, and I would never talk to the referee. When I was coaching, sometimes I would, but when I was watching as a fan, I never would. It's just not part of the deal. And I just think that if parents would talk to their children and just say, these are the rules of the road. This is right and this is wrong. I think we'd get more people attracted to officiating. I really do. I think we would. And we wouldn't scare people off. Now, like, I know the numbers. The women's game is growing so quickly. I don't know if we're going to have enough officials eventually to be able to do all these games at the right level. The women's game should be celebrated, and they shouldn't be getting second and third and fourth rate officials. I heard you guys talking about Gigi Marvin. I think it was you, Mark, talking about Gigi. I did Olympics that Gigi played in, and I know in 18 she was an Olympic gold medalist, but I know in 14 in Sochi she played as well. She's a really good hockey person. She and TJ Oshie are like two of the most famous people out of War Road, Minnesota. She doesn't want to have secondary officials working women's games. She wants to have the best. And I admire that. I respect that a ton.
And I'll tell you, the women's officials program has grown, and it's I think it's under all the girls that got selected are pretty solid going over there, though, especially the Americans.
That's
so
great.
like that part of it's really good. Like we're bringing in more and more women. We hold women's camps in the summertime. USA Hockey does a really good job with their program bringing in women, and with the PHL, I just heard recently that the American League officials working in the PHL kind of raised the bar for the women officials, right? Because bring that professional level in, because they really never really had that type of, like you said, the professionalism that the referees take and how serious we take our job.
It's pretty cool. Last week I was in Charlotte to watch Des Moines, Iowa, Minnesota's farm team play against Florida Panthers farm team in Charlotte. And there was a young lady working the lines.
Yep.
And you know what? She skated as well as the guys.
They do.
When there were tussles, and you guys know, I don't have to tell you, not to celebrate violence, but in the American Hockey League, there's violence.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no other way around it. Like, guys are fighting for jobs. They want to go up to the NHL. And she got right in there. There were no issues. Guys respected her, just like they would respect another linesman, whether it was a guy or girl, didn't matter. And I was really impressed. I watched her work 2 nights, and I thought she was outstanding. It really did.
Yeah, I have women working the men's side on in college hockey as well. Yep,
It's great.
Well, Rhode Island, Amanda Tassani, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. She's a friend of mine. She just got chosen to work Milan.
That's fantastic.
So Rhode Island, right next door. It's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Former guest Kelly Cook
and Kelly Rostad, both of them. Yep.
That's awesome. First time I ever saw a young lady working with men was when my son was playing in the BCHL, Penticton versus West Kelowna, and there was a young lady working the lines, and I had never seen that before. And I was like, she did a really good job. She did a really good job. So it's great.
We've talked about how the NHL is kind of the last league to have a female official. All the other major sports have had it. And they're the last, kind of frontier. And I'd say there's plenty of women officials out there that are better than half the freaking guys working right now in the NHL.
Mark, I'm not saying anything. I'll let you do that.
I know you can't agree, but and that's not shocking, Pierre. That's not the first time I've said that on this podcast. but yeah, it's something that should happen soon, or sooner than later. I think,
Yeah, I agree.
But now, did you, because we mentioned some of the old school guys, was Bill McCreary your favorite ref? Or
You know what? I go all the way back to Wally Harris, the late Wally Harris.
Wally
Yeah.
Harris.
Yep.
And we became such good friends that we used to golf in the summer together up in northern Quebec all the time. Wally passed away a couple years ago. He was an amazing person to deal with. And my real first exposure to Wally as a kid, he did a lot of the big Saturday night games in Montreal back in the day. So I watched him work. And then, I don't know, he was a supervisor in one of our playoff series when I was in the NHL. And he was so polite, and he would come over and he'd put his arm around you and say, okay, here's where I know you're mad. Here's where you could be better. And he no yelling, no screaming, no talking down. He really was a mentor. Like, he tried to help you. Johnny D'Amico was amazing. I remember all of his high school buddies in Toronto. I don't know why, but they got my number and they called me up and they said, hey, Johnny's having a birthday. And we went to a tavern in Toronto. And it was as much fun as I've ever had in the city of Toronto. I'm not kidding you. And I've been to Toronto a lot in my life. We sat there for hours, and I just listened to these guys tell John D'Amico stories. It was unbelievable. And so Johnny and Wally were two of my favorites. I liked Kerry Fraser a lot because you knew what you were getting every time Kerry worked. I thought Dan Marowelli was phenomenal. There were so many that I could think of. Donnie Koharski was awesome. Andy, it's interesting. I was coaching the East Coast League, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Andy Van Helleman was in charge of the officials.
Yeah, he was my boss.
Was he? And Andy, it's a great story.
Yeah.
We had a pretty decent team, and then a lot of our guys started getting called up. And Andy called me up one day. He goes, how's it going? I said, it's going pretty good. I said, some of your guys aren't very good. Like, I'm pissed off, but I'm trying to keep it in check. And he goes, I see what you're talking about. And then, I don't know, the next day I lost it. And Andy called me up and he said, I'm going to have to fine you. I said, fuck. And he goes, a couple hundred. So I get this bill and it says $2,000. And I call Andy up and I go, I'm not paying that. Buzz off. And he goes, no, I was just messing with you. Oh, it was good.
Andy fined me twice.
Did he?
$100 for messing up.
Oh,
I mean, I did mess up. And so he fined me $100, but it never came out of my paycheck. I think he just did it to tell the team, oh yeah, well, I fined him. But he never took it out.
I'm telling you, he sent me this bill for $2,000. I was like, not a chance. And I call him up and I wasn't this nice. And he goes, see, I got you. I was just messing around with you.
See, he was my favorite, not only because I worked for him. I mean, that definitely, maybe made me a little biased, but I just thought he was the best to ever do it. I mean, what do you have, 21 Stanley Cups? Yeah.
When he did this, and you were on the bench, you knew.
Yes.
No more changes. You knew,
Yeah.
right? Like, he looked at everybody. He's like, I grew up in the era too. Maybe you guys will appreciate this. I remember when Brian Murphy was doing the lines, and then Brian Murphy became a referee in the NHL. I remember when Jay Scherer was doing the lines, and he became a referee. And it was because we went to the 4-man system. And they were taking guys who were professional as all get out as linesmen, and they were moving into referees, and they weren't as good at doing that. And it was kind of crazy. And now I think they recognize we better move these guys back.
Yes.
Like, you guys would probably remember this too. Jay Sherris was a tough guy. Like, he was a tough guy.
Great linesman.
Yeah. Whenever you go into Vancouver, he did a lot of West Coast games. And they had Vancouver for years had tough teams. Like, they had tough guys. Guys knew when Jay was doing a game, like, you didn't want him. If he said stop, you stopped. Because if not, he might mess you up. That's just how it was. And Murph was the same. Like, I did so many games. Some of Murph's first games in Boston, like big rivalry playoff games, I was coaching. Murph was really good. And then they took him off doing the lines and put him as a ref. And I was like, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? So anyways.
No, it's tough to make that transition. And a lot of guys think it's easy because like, oh, I lined at this level, but it's two different jobs. It's two different things. It's totally different. And, you have to go back to move up, if that makes any sense. Like, go back in juniors, learn the system, learn how to, miss the calls, learn which ones to get, learn how to communicate to the coaches, the captains, the goaltenders, all that kind of stuff. And then you work your way up, and, if you get it early on, you can progress pretty quickly, but it's what you put into it is what you'll get out of it.
Yeah. Good
I
point.
think too, historically, for some reason, people have looked at linesmen as like second class officials, right? Like the referee is the referee, which I always said I was only as good as my linesman. I think linesmen are the most important officials out there, not the referees, because they're the ones that set the tempo. They're the ones that make those black and white calls, and they're the ones that can help you out in tough situations. And I think that's at least this is just my take on it. That guys are back in the day, it was JFL, right? Just a fucking linesman. That, and I know at the National League, that's not the case, but kind of the lower, like college hockey, some guys will go, I want to referee, I don't want to line anymore. And it's like, dude, you're as important, if not more important than the ref, So
So it's so well said, Mark. I'll just give you an example. Gino, Josh, I'll give you an example. So in a game, there's usually between 50 and 80 faceoffs, 50 and 80. So that's 50 to 80 times that a linesman has to interact with players in a confined situation. They're not just JFLs. They're important guys because they do set the tempo for a game. And, Ray Scampanello is a great example of that. Ray was a phenomenal official. Like if you were a referee and you had a big game, like a Stanley Cup final game, you wanted Scampi on the lines. You ask Frazier, you ask McCreary, you ask Marawelli, ask any of those guys, they'll tell you, in those games, you wanted Scampi because he's going to be your ally, because he's going to take the temperature down a little bit when it got up. And so I have always looked at a linesman in particular as being really important to the process. Really important.
Absolutely. I walked into the to Billy Rieger's office at Holy Cross on Tuesday, and they were playing Quinnipiac, and
yeah.
yep, and Rand was in there, so I got the 2-for-1 visit with the both coaches, right? So so we're in there talking about face-offs and lines and how important they are, and like, it, and I said to him, I go, as a referee, I go, a bad linesman can make a good referee look bad, right? Makes the game look choppy, but a great linesman can make a good referee look great. And they can get in there, stop, whatever, be the go-between, hustle and make the face-offs clean, just stopping fires from brewing up, and be in your eyes, picking off that major penalty when called upon. All that kind of stuff is just what makes a great linesman. You're not just there to call offsides and your job's not done once you make that wave. Like, you're still focused in on what's going on, because there might be a whistle, there might be a major penalty. You're constantly making, decisions on the line spot.
Yeah, they got to have courage too. You guys know.
Yes.
Like, it's not a game for shrinking violets. It's a fast game played on a slippery surface with a lot of mean-spirited people. That's that's how kind of it is,
Yes.
And so
that
sometimes
should be on a T-shirt, by the way. That should,
Yeah.
I did.
Well,
What if we go into
banner.
business together? Let's do that. The 4 of us. Let's
that is
go.
brilliant.
Love it. Write it down, Josh.
But
Just dead.
But you know what I mean? Like, I just know, especially in playoff games, you guys know, like, there's regular season, there's rivalry, and then there are playoff series. And those, they get nasty.
Price of poker goes up, man.
The price of
Oof.
poker goes up 100%.
Derek Sanderson said it best. He said it's a game of courage. Whether you're, no matter what you're doing, it's a game of courage. And, it comes down to who basically has the bigger balls. Like
Can you
that's
imagine those days? They had goalies without masks. They had players without helmets.
yeah.
Like, running. I know the speeds weren't as great and guys didn't shoot the puck as hard as they do now, but Bobby Hull still played. John Ferguson Sr. still played. Like, I can go, Lou Fontanato played. All these tough guys, like crazy people.
Yeah.
Like, there was a mean game.
Not even no masks. Like, even with the masks, that's still a little crazy.
I wanted to throw this by all you guys because you would appreciate it, especially with your exposure to prep school and college. My first year in college as a player was in 1979. You didn't have to wear a shield the year before, but then they put the mask and the bubbles on everybody, and it changed in college. I've never, like, 37 years I've been in the NHL. and I coached for 6 years in college, and I played for 4. I've never seen more violent hits than college hockey hits than compared to pro. And I'm convinced it's because guys aren't afraid.
Right.
They use their heads as
100%.
battering rams. And
Yes,
all
they
that.
feel protected. Yeah.
I'd love to
The
get
violence is incredible. I was talking to someone that was like, they're midgets, right? And all the midget kids, they're walking off, their arms are broken, they're just running reckless, like everybody's getting injured. It's just like, what are we doing? And like a check is supposed to be separating the body from the puck, not putting the kid in the fourth row, right? And these kids run and run and run. And then you call the penalties. It's like, well, let them play. And it's like, well, which one is it? Do you want player safety, or you want to come up and get out of here in a stretcher?
Makes you
I
feel
have to-
invincible out there.
I have to laugh, Gino, you saying.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That was about separating the man the way you played. I refereed you. You had no,
Yeah, that's true.
you
Good
had
point.
no desire to separate Eddie from the puck. You wanted to kill them.
That's true. That is true.
Oh,
It's different
That's
back
Talking
then.
about others.
Yeah, no. I'd love to get your take, Pierre, on this, because you bring it up. I've always said that college should go to half shields. And it would change the game.
it would. And at first, it would bring more skill in. Secondly, now because of the relationship with the CHL and we're bringing major junior guys down, they don't wear masks. They wear
Right.
half shields. So what? All of a sudden, we're going to bring them down from there and put a full mask on them? Why? And I think as long as a guy wore a mouthpiece, if they're worried about the concussion part, make sure there's full protection from the nose up so that people don't lose their eye. I don't know why we wouldn't do that, because it would stop all this nonsense. There are a lot of tough guys in college hockey, and those same tough guys, when I go watch the American League, they're not nearly as tough. And I'm just
It's
curious
funny you
why
say that,
is.
Pierre. I
Yeah.
worked the American League, and then I worked college hockey. So I saw some kids in college hockey that used to be a pain in the ass. And then I'd seen the American League, and I'm like, I would go right up to them, and they're nervous because it's their first kind of games in the American League. And I'm like, hey, I usually wait for them to be on the bench too, and I'd swing by, and I'm like, hey, not chirping me tonight, huh? Different sweater on? I just go by and give them a little zing on the bench, and then they come out, tap me on the pad, and like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, dude, I remember. Just be nice.
No, you do. So
You could
I
always
think if
tell
we
them.
went to half shield, I'm a big proponent of that. I have been for a long time. Aaron Ward was a real good hockey player. I tried to recruit him out of Nepean, Ontario to come play for us at St. Lawrence. He ended up going to the University of Michigan. If you ever saw, and he played a long time and won a lot of Stanley Cups. His last one was 06 in Carolina. You go watch some of the hits that he put on people when he played at Michigan. People thought my guy, Elf Samuelson, was a savage.
Mm.
Aaron Ward's hits were far more draconian than anything Alfie did. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And they were
There was
clean.
some brutes. There were some big boys in the American League through my years. I was there for 9 seasons, and there were some monsters that would just lay the lumber and lay the body.
Yeah.
Night in, night out.
Now, so the half shield in college, one of the things that you were a big proponent of was taking out the red line.
I was.
And I think that was one of the best changes that the NHL has made in a long time.
I talked about it for probably 7 years, and they wouldn't do it. And then we got the nuclear winter from 04 to 05, and there was no hockey. And to his credit, Brendan Shanahan put together a committee, and that was one of the first things they talked about. And if you look at, it used to be a race to 3 in the NHL. If you scored 3 goals, you were winning the game. If you scored 3 first. And now it's who knows if it's a race to 5 or 6. The other night, watch Anaheim versus San Jose at 7-6.
Skill's
Go
unbelievable.
watch Boston at Vegas.
Yeah.
7-6.
6-5.
I'm just saying, people can come. We've never seen more teams come from behind in playoff games because the red line's out. The stretch pass is available, and it makes a difference. And I was really proud of the league when they did that. And I know there were a lot of old hockey people that were mad at me because I did fight for that and propose it. But the truth is, it's allowed smaller, more creative players to come into the league. It's added way more speed to the game, and it's allowed teams to come from behind, which you couldn't do before.
And then you pile the hybrid icing up on that, right? So now it's
Yeah.
a race to the puck.
Well,
now you
that's-
keep the
that's
play
why they
moving.
did it.
Yeah.
100%.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
People were getting killed on the touch icing. I mean, that was
Yeah.
one of the most
Oh,
dangerous
wow.
plays in
So
sport.
many. It's so sad. One of our players from St. Lawrence, Pierre McGuire, broke his neck and his career ended, and he was in a wheelchair forever playing in the American Hockey League for Springfield up in Cape Breton. And thank goodness he went to the Spalding Rehab Center, and eventually they got him back on track. And now he can walk and he functions. And he's married. And but when that happened, I was like, "You got to be kidding me! You got to be kidding!" It's all for an icing situation, just crazy.
Now, do you think the rink size? Do you think the rink size has anything? Would you like where the rink size is, or would you maybe somewhere in between an Olympic sheet and the NHL size, or like where do you think the rink size should be?
What a great question, Gino. So I would say this: I've been going to Finland for a long time. The Finns figured it out. It's one of the reasons why a country with only 8.5 million people can produce so many NHL players. So they don't play international there. They play on a hybrid rink. It's 200 feet long, but it's 90 to 93 feet wide. And so it allows more room. It allows for hitting because the Finns are usually physical players. And also it allows for teams to utilize the indirect paths to get more action at the net. And I think the big ice just kills that 200 by 100.
I agree.
It kills it. It just kills it. So if you were to ask me, the best thing to do would probably be to go to 90 feet wide. I don't think they'll ever do it because it take away too many of the high price seats. But I think that'd be the perfect scenario.
Yeah, we've talked about that before on here about making the rink a little bigger and how that might change the game, especially with the size of the players, the added ref. It could make a big difference. The game I did this past week down in Fall River. It was a state rink, and the
shoebox
is this big,
Yeah.
right? And it's just there's nowhere to go, and it's a college game, and there's 4 or 5 teams that play on rinks that size, and it's it's dangerous. It really is dangerous. I mean, it is what it is. Unfortunately.
Do you guys remember do you remember the old Boston Garden?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember the old stadium in Chicago? Like the Odd in Buffalo? Those were crazy places to play and coach. Trust me. Like they were on you. People were on
Building
top, and the
shook.
rink was small. One of the best things I ever saw, you guys will appreciate this. We're playing them in the Boston in the 91 Eastern Conference Final. And everybody was talking about the rink, how the Bruins would take away our speed and our skill and hammer us into submission. So before the first game in Boston, Bob Johnson goes on the ice with a tape measure in his shoes. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm working for the man and I'm watching him do this. He's got the tape measure out and he says to one of the guys, I forget, one of the guys working on the Bull Gang, "Could you hold this for a second?" And he takes a tape measure from one blue line to the next. And he says it really loud so the players who are taping their sticks on the bench can hear. He goes, "Same size neutral zone as ours." I don't think the Bruins like that very much. Oh, yeah. Badger was amazing, by the way. I'm just telling you guys, there's so many amazing characters in hockey. He was one of the most amazing men to ever work for. I was so appreciative of him taking me on board and for me working with him. He was an amazing man. Amazing man.
Would you consider that the best head coach you worked under?
No, Scotty Bowman's the best head coach I ever worked. We were roommates for 2 years, traveled all over the world together, won 2 cups together. I can't say enough. He's still alive. He's 92 years old. He watches more games than anybody. I've said this on a lot of different mediums too, Mark and Gino and Josh. I know he's 92. I'm telling you guys right now, he can still coach. If you put him on a bench, he would wipe the floor with some of these young guys. I'm telling you. Like, I remember coaching in a playoff series with him, and I don't want to embarrass the coaching staff that we were coaching against, so I won't say who it was. And at the end of game 6, the head coach looked over at our bench, and he gives me one of these. And he goes, "I surrender." Like, I surrender because everything that Scotty did was a math problem. He'd figure out how many minutes or seconds a star player in the other team was playing. He'd know the matchup defenseman, how many seconds they were playing. Like, he had this ability to process things mathematically that most coaches didn't. And he would just break players down and drive you nuts if you were coaching against them.
That's incredible. We got to take a quick second to thank a sponsor. and pay a bill and talk about a great guy and a great hockey player, Graham Townsend. Yeah, at Townsend Hockey, they don't just build great hockey players, they build great people with discipline, respect, and leadership. On the ice and off, they train character, they grow confidence, and they inspire a lifelong love of the game. Because at Townsend Hockey, it's not just about the scoreboard, it's about who you become. They build teammates, leaders, young people with heart, grit, and integrity because they know that the lessons learned on the ice, discipline, respect, resilience, are the same ones that shape strong character for life. At Townsend Hockey, they don't just develop great hockey players, they develop great people. Townsend Hockey, join them and become more than just a player, become your best self. Townsend Hockey, practice until you get it right, practice until you can't get it wrong. Visit them at townsendhockey.com, and that's Townsend with an H, TOWNHEND, Townsend, because I messed that up one time, and Graham called me out on it. But he does a great job up there.
Can I give a shout out to Graham? The first time I met Graham, I was coaching at the RPI Hockey School for the late Mike Odessa, and Graham was one of their high-flying recruits that year. And at the camp that year, we had John Carter, former Bruin.
Yep.
We had Mike Sadapour, who was a captain of the national championship team. We had Darren Pupa. We had Michael Dark. We had Adam Oates. And we had a guy named Graham Townsend. And I'm telling you right now, Graham was so large and strong. I was like, this guy's going to hurt people. And he was the hardest working guy. Like, he would be at the rink, he'd go to the weight room, he'd be back at the rink, he'd go, like, it was unbelievable. And then, he obviously makes the NHL, and I'm coaching against him, and I'm just watching him like, wow, I'm so proud of this guy and the way he's evolved as a player and as a person. He's a fantastic person. Yes. Really good person.
One of the best. One of the best. He was, and John Carter, a former guest of the show.
How's P-Head doing?
He's he's good. Still dropping his eyeball on people's beers to get them for free.
Oh my God!
But,
you know what?
Did that to Josh.
Hey,
Yeah. Now I don't drink.
hey, Josh, that guy could shoot a puck, man. Johnny Carter could shoot a puck.
I can't believe him and LB lived together when they were on San Jose. That must have been.
I'm not sure that was a good living arrangement. Playing that. Yeah, I think when they were living together, I was coaching in Pitt, and I remember we went into San Jose. I think we were playing in Daly City. It wasn't in San Jose then. It was just outside San Francisco, if I remember correctly. You took your life in your own hands when you left the rink in Daly City and walked to the team bus. That's how dangerous it was after the games. Oh, yeah, man. That was an old rodeo building, and the boards were like concrete because they bring the steers in, and they didn't want the steers running out. So when they hit the boards, it was like hitting concrete.
Oh
yeah.
That's like one of the corners at Holy Cross. Like it's seriously the far end, the left. Yeah.
I coached up that's the building up on top of the hill, right?
Yeah.
I coached there when I was at Babson. Yeah, that was, yeah.
How was your time at Babson with Mr. Steve Sterling?
It was fantastic. 3 amazing years. We had so many good players. Chucky Brooks, Tommy Sasso, Ronnie Barron, Tommy Aquaviva. I can go down the line. I remember all the players like it was yesterday. It's over 40 years ago. We won a lot of games. We went to the NCAA tournament every year.
Yeah, you guys were always good. No, was Europa Cup around back then?
I worked Europa Cup for 4 summers.
Yeah.
And I skated a lot in those days. I was on the ice a lot in those days.
That's funny. I was probably a baby because my father was over there all the time. He used to take me all the time.
Working all the time.
He was always over there. Yeah,
he was.
The older
I played and reffed in the Europa Cup.
Remember Marty McDonough?
Oh yeah, Marty. Oh yeah,
Marty. I'm the commissioner.
Yeah, Marty was there a lot, and who else was there? There were a bunch of referees that I'm trying
Jimmy
to remember.
Doyle.
Jimmy Doyle
was probably there.
He was there.
Yep. Jimmy Doyle. Yep. No, that's what I said.
There.
Jimmy Doyle. Yep. Dennis Scholes.
There were so many guys. Oh man, that was an amazing camp. One year we had Roenick, Amonte, Guerin, Kachuk, Bobby Kellogg, 3rd round pick of Chicago, played at Northeastern. Marty McGinnis. I'm just going over all that, like Sean McEachran. They were all there at the same time.
Yeah. As players.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow.
This was an unbelievable. I'm telling you, like this league was at another level. It was crazy. Kids would come in from all over the United States.
It
It
was
was really
awesome.
special. It really was.
Yeah, I played and refed in it. It was awesome. You get like wicked cool jerseys. You like, yeah, it was
All
awesome.
European names. Yeah.
All
exactly.
European names. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
they always
worked that.
like.
I refereed there.
Yeah, my
did
father
that
called it the
there.
Poopa Cup. Yeah.
My
Yep.
gosh. Well, Riles, I would have seen you for sure. I mean, at
Yeah,
some point, yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure our paths crossed, and I don't. I think Andy was my boss. I don't know what his first year was. I think he might have was in when it must have been when you were there. That was his first year, and then he hired me out of select camp. So
Okay.
we just missed each other.
I went to St. Lawrence in '88.
Okay.
I was at Babson from '85 to '88, and then I went in '90 to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's awesome. Now you've seen thousands of games. I mean, maybe even hundreds of thousands of games.
No, but it's seen thousands, tens of
Yeah.
thousands. Yeah.
What's the greatest game you've ever watched? been
2010. It's easy to say the 2010 Olympic gold medal game in Vancouver, between the United States and Canada. And it's so many storylines. It's Canada having a great start. It's the USA evolving and getting back in the game. It's a late goal by the Americans to tie it. It's Sidney Crosby yelling at the top of his lungs in that slot in front of Ryan Miller, Iggy, Iggy, Iggy. And I'm hearing this because I'm working at ice level, and it's Jerome passing the puck to Sid, who beats Ryan Miller. And the entire building, it just like a bomb went off. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be morbid. It was unbelievable. And what I remember the most is the next day being at the airport flying back because I had to go to my day job, which was working at NBC. And I remember being at the airport with Ronnie Wilson, who was the coach for Team USA. And I said, Ronnie, like, what happened in overtime? You guys had not, he says, I told the coaches, we spend so much mental and physical energy to tie this thing that we better score early or we're not going to win. And they didn't. It just Canada had too much, and the Americans had nothing left. That's what happened. That game was amazing. The drama, the fans, the effort from both teams, the goaltending from Luongo, the goaltending from Ryan Miller. Like you go down the line of all the great things, and then Crosby, the golden goal. You know, I'm calling the game with Chris Cuthbert in Canada. This will blow you guys away. Canada at that time was a country of 33 million people. At that time, 2010. It's the largest, most watched television show in Canadian history. 26 million people watched that game in Canada.
Wow.
26 million of 33 million watched that game.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I was with a bunch of Canadians watching it. Gino Binda and Matt McPherson. I lived with them in Reading, so I was watching it with them, and they were giving it to me.
Yeah, well, big Matt is still working away.
Yes, he is. Yeah,
He
both
is.
of them are. And Matt was big in the Coast League, and I'll tell you, he worked his ass off. He swam every day and cut a ton of weight. And I mean, I'm so happy for both those guys. Stanley Cup final referees, like so proud of them. And it's what careers those two had.
They're great people.
Yes,
Great.
Yep.
They're great people. Great people.
Yeah, great people too.
Yeah, that game, amount of talent in years past of the World Cups and the Olympics, and ever since the pros started playing. I mean, some of those teams are just, you shake your head because it's on even on the Sweden team and on the
But the 06
wild.
final was good too. Sweden-Finland was amazing. And it was, people forget this. Lidstrom scores the winning goal. It's off a broken stick off a faceoff to start the third period. It was a broken stick. I think it was Teemu Selanne's stick broke on the faceoff, and he lost Lidstrom, and that's how they scored, and that was the end of the game. Lundqvist shut the door for the Swedes. It's amazing. So that's a big moment in Swedish history, obviously, 2006. You guys can Google this. It's a great story for all your viewers, too. In 2002, we were in Salt Lake City for the Olympics, and the Swedes lost, I think, to Belarus or maybe Latvia, but a major upset. The next day, the Aftonbladet, which is the newspaper in Sweden, had a picture of all the players and coaches of Sweden with their NHL salaries underneath their picture. And I don't read Swedish, and I've been there a lot, but the headline was criminals. So the redemption that happened for those guys in 2006 was them winning the gold. They went from being criminals to being superheroes. Well, the same thing happened in 98. Remember, Canada didn't even get a medal.
Right.
They lost in the shootout to Dominik Hasek and the Czechs. Everybody in Canada, like I'm telling you, they did like political hearings on this stuff. It was insane. 02 for them to win in 02 in Salt Lake was mammoth for Canada. And I was doing the game. It was like a celebration like I'd never seen before. And then Canada goes to 06 and really lays an egg like badly. So that's why 10 was so big. 10 was amazing for both Canada and the United States.
Criminals. They're stealing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And what's even better is, and I know I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but Mammoth in Salt Lake City.
Well, now there you go.
There it is.
There you go. It's huge. And I think they're one of the most improved teams in the league this year right now. If you look at it, they really are. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to last the whole year, but they've done a nice job. I think they've done a nice job putting the team together. They got to stay healthy. They don't have that much organizational depth, but if they stay healthy, I think they got a chance to be a playoff team in the West.
Yeah, they're not bad at all. They're a good little team. And
right
kind of like Chicago, I think, who's kind of, a few years away, but has a really good young nucleus around.
Well said. Completely agree, Mark. And they're not only good in Chicago, they're really good with their farm team in Rockford.
And Blashill's good.
He's really good. He's a
great guy too.
He'll keep it calm, cool, and collected. Couldn't agree more, Gino. Absolutely.
Yep. He was great to deal with when he was in Grand Rapids. Yep.
Really good hire. Well, all he did was win there. Holy mackerel, that was cuckoo.
They had teams. They were loaded.
Yeah, they were always loaded. That was the Red Wing way. Overripe rather than underdeveloped. It's like we were talking about with the referees. Keep them down a little bit longer. Same with players. That was Detroit's thing forever. Overripe rather than underdeveloped.
Love that saying. Another one goes on a T-shirt.
There we
got a few.
Just cranking them out. We're gonna have a full story.
Okay, boys, send me the bill.
I'm putting these on our new online store on our website. We're just gonna sell. They're gonna be called the Pierre McGuire line.
That's good.
We'll pay you. Don't worry.
Royalty.
Royalties.
That's good.
Sam Lafferty, young player on Chicago. Former guest on the show. He came on when we were out in Montana.
Deerfield kid. Played at Deerfield. Yep. Then he went to Brown, right? Did you go to Brown? I think he went to
Brown for 4 years. Yeah.
Brown,
And stayed there for 4 years. And talk about overripe. He even said he knew he wasn't ready. And that's, why he spent those 4 years there, to give himself time to develop.
I have a great story for you guys about that. It hits close to home. My son turned pro last year when he was done at Northeastern and signed with Minnesota. And their American League team didn't make the playoffs. They put him in the East Coast League with their farm team in Iowa City. And he played 16 or 17 games, counting playoffs. And he came to visit my wife and I when it was over. And he goes, Dad, I really thought physically I was ready for this. And he goes, I can tell you right now, like after playing 17 games, 7 of which were playoff games, he goes, I know now what I got to do in the summer. Like, this is way harder than I thought it was. I said, yeah, because when you're playing pro, you got a guy that's got a wife that's got a child. They got to feed the baby. They got car payments. They got rent payments. They got insurance. But they got everything payments. You didn't have that in college.
Yeah.
You guys maybe had a tab at the local bar, and that was about it. These guys got families. And I said, it changes the whole dynamic for how pro hockey is. And until kids experience it, they will never know. You can tell them till you're blue in the face.
But even like the talent and the strength that these guys have is insane. Like when we were playing the Bruins alumni, Riley, like I think Terry O'Reilly lifted my stick and I flew 10 feet. And I was like, oh my God.
Can you imagine fighting him? Have you ever seen the size of his hands?
They're this big.
I know, they're unbelievable. So it's I worked with Paul Holmgren. He was my general manager in Hartford, and we worked together for 2 straight years. And he fought Terry O'Reilly 3 times in one game. Like, that's just cuckoo.
Yeah.
And they weren't like little wrestling matches either. Those were
those were real fights.
Yeah, those were fights.
Those were real fights.
I was
They
like
were
looking
just-
at Veal on Boston now. He fought
yeah.
Chara, and I'm like, "What? Are you out of your mind? You're a squeak.
Yeah.
You're a tiny guy."
I watched him play an American League last year in Laval when he was with Providence, and they had some heavyweights in Laval last year at the beginning of the season, and he went a couple.
He's like a little
times.
PJ Stock.
He's a tough kid. He is a tough kid.
Well,
I respect those guys so much.
Speaking of Chara, were you in the booth during that Montreal incident when he hit Pacioretty? And was it Pacioretty, right?
Yeah,
because of
Pacioretty.
Brock,
Yeah, Pacioretty.
I was also in the booth. This is a good story. You can look it up online when he punched Raitins Ivanins in the face.
Mm.
And he basically caved the side of his face in. Broke his cheek, broke his jaw, broke his orbital bone. Like the face was caved in. Like he was the most, I think, of all the years that I've been around it, back in the day, Bobby Probert, Joey Koser, Daryl Stanley, Dave Brown, like Rick Tocchet, like they were all really tough. But you got to think, this guy's 6'9", and his conditioning levels are crazy, and his hand strength is so cuckoo. Like to have the courage to even attempt to fight that guy is nuts. I remember when Brian Giunta, when Brian was in Montreal and Zdeno was in Boston, Gio would try to go up to against him. I'd be like, no, just get away from him.
Bugger
He's gonna
off.
kill you.
He might have been able to go through his legs.
Oh. You guys know what I mean. Like Big Z's amazingly fit and strong, and he's very humble and polite. But when he gets mad, oh man, like get out of the way.
No thanks.
No. Even in the alumni games he's played in that I've reffed, it's like he looks like he could go back out there. Like it's amazing. Like
It
he's
is.
just massive human.
We never got enough credit on Big Z, and I always used to tell him, I said, "You're the guy that did this." Is Mike Milbury. Mike was the GM of the Islanders when they drafted Zdeno, and he really believed in him. Like he went from Prince George in the BC or in the Western Hockey League to play in Lexington, Kentucky for a team called the Everblades or the Thoroughblades.
Thoroughblades.
That's who they were. Everblades are down in Florida. Blades. It was Mike. Mike's the one that believed in Big Z. I'm just telling you. Mike Milbury never got enough credit for that. Never did.
Only got it here today.
Yeah. Did you
Love
see
Mike.
that
He's awesome.
kid that's 7'1"?
I did. I have.
And he's like 280 pounds or something.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to translate, Mark. We're going to see whether he'll be able to keep up or not. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. We talked about Bob Johnson before. When I worked for Badger, one day we had a breakfast meeting at the Vista Hotel in Pittsburgh, and it was all the coaches and the scouts. And Badger said, "You know what's amazing about our sport? We're in the United States, and we got John Elway, who's a quarterback at Denver, and we got Michael Jordan, who's the point guard for the Chicago Bulls, and we got Magic Johnson, who played at Michigan State, who's this unbelievable player for the LA Lakers." And he kept going on all these sporting guys, Dave Winfield, like baseball player. He was naming off chapter and verse all these amazing athletes. And he says, "Could you guys imagine if those guys what would happen to the sport?" He was the first guy I ever heard. We got to get more rinks built in inner cities. We got to make it easier for people to play. We got to make it cheaper for people to play. Like he was the biggest proponent of that. I will always remember Badger at that meeting at the old Vista. Now it's the Westin Hotel in Pittsburgh, but back then it was the Vista. We were always having breakfast with him, and one day that was his big thing. He wanted you to learn something new every day. Badger, that was his line. What'd you learn that was new today? That was his line. It was always good.
That's awesome. Out of all the great athletes, and I think arguably he's the greatest athlete ever, was Bo Jackson. And I would have loved to seen him on the ice.
How
he would have been a
strong.
wrecking ball.
Imagine him shooting a puck the way he used to break bats. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah. And his legs, like just those. I mean, I would
His
have
speed
loved
would
to see
be-
him.
Yeah,
Oh,
get it.
Yeah,
he would have been off the charts.
Yeah.
I just think he's perhaps the best athlete ever. I mean, to excel in two different sports and two different major, leagues, Major League Baseball and NFL, I don't know
Deion
who
Sanders
I
else.
was
is
just
right
gonna
up there
say
too.
Neon
Yeah.
Dion would be in
Deion's
the,
right up
the
there. Yeah.
discussion too. Dave
Yep.
Winfield, I don't know if you guys know because it's maybe a little before your time, but when I was a kid, Dave Winfield, they said could have played in the NFL as a tight end, could have played in the NBA as a power forward, and played Major League Baseball. They said, now I wasn't old enough, but I remember him obviously. They say he's one of the guys that maybe changed how the sporting sphere worked for all these super athletes. He was really talented.
I knew he was. I didn't realize about the basketball because I knew football.
Yeah, he was
They had
a
talked about him.
University of Minnesota guy, and that was a big, like, people were like, this guy was great at everything. I'd go out there to watch hockey and it'd be like, Dave Winfield, and they'd tell you these stories about Dave Winfield.
Wow. Do you think Hartford will ever have a team again?
I don't, unfortunately. I don't. I think those markets are going to have a tough time getting NHL teams because the salaries you can't keep up. Like when I coached Hartford, you guys, our salary budget for the whole team was $9.5 million.
My goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, that'd be 100 million.
Your left
shy
wing.
That'd be 100 million shy of the cap right now.
That's a
Well,
left wing.
I know it was 30 plus years ago, but I'm just telling you guys, that's just where it was. You know, that people, I'm the biggest proponent of Quebec. I'm a kid that grew up in Montreal, and I think Quebec should have a team. The problem is, realistically, the Canadian dollar is at 40 cents on the dollar. Like, how are you going to do that? They don't have enough corporate to help to do it. So it's an issue. It's
No,
unfortunate,
you-
but I do think expansion. Well, maybe we'll break some news here. I think there'll be expansion in Atlanta. I think there'll be expansion in Houston. I think there'll be expansion in Scottsdale, Arizona. Not Glendale, Scottsdale. They'll build a new building, and I think there'll be one more team. And I don't know if they'll put it in Portland, Oregon. I don't know if they'll put it maybe north of Toronto, because I think that market could do it, or they'll put it maybe in another team in Chicago. I don't know, but I do think there'll be 4 new teams at some point. You're not too far down.
You think Atlanta, huh? Third time's a charm?
Well, Atlanta's getting a team.
Yeah.
I get a team.
That's you answered my next question because I was going to ask you where you think expansion would happen.
That's good, Mark.
If
We're
it would.
telepathic. I like it.
Yeah, I know. You
All
saw
right,
that
just change the
coming.
question. Who do you think should lose a team?
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to get in trouble, Josh. Damn. There are a couple that should lose teams. But anyways,
yeah. You think like what city could, like outside of New York, obviously, what city could handle 2 NHL teams? I mean,
Toronto could.
yeah. Well, if they got a winner, that might help them.
Toronto could. You'd have to be north of the city. So the 407 runs north of the city. That's where a lot of the bedroom communities are. And I think they would enjoy having a team that's not the Leafs. You know, I do.
Yeah, well, I think most Leafs fans would enjoy having a team.
I worked in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
They,
Not big enough.
here's the problem on that, Gino. There's territorial
Detroit.
protection. So
Right.
you'd have to pay indemnity to Toronto, and
Right.
you'd have
And
to
then,
pay it to Buffalo.
oh, Buffalo.
And so
right.
that would be the problem there. And, you know, people don't talk about this enough. Forever, the New Jersey Devils, nobody wanted to say it, were paying indemnity to the Rangers. They were paying indemnity to the Islanders. And they were also paying indemnity to the Philadelphia Flyers. And nobody even equates that Philadelphia is less than 150 miles away from where the Meadowlands is. So that's kind of it's pretty amazing. And they've found a way to survive as a group in New Jersey that is mind shattering to me. I think that speaks to the old ownership of Dr. McMullen before he passed. Dr. McMullen was an amazing owner. I'm telling you guys, he was a legendary owner in the league, and he was an amazing owner.
Does that still happen? Does
Indemnity,
New Jersey
yeah,
still pay that?
if you infringe. So here's a good story for you. Remember when they built this magnificent hockey rink in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? They wanted to get an expansion team. And the Chicago Blackhawks said, not on our watch, because you're inside our territory. And the indemnity would have been too great. They couldn't afford it. So that's why they never got a team in Milwaukee.
Now they're the Milwaukee Admirals.
They have an American League team. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't realize that
Yeah.
that they would have to pay other teams.
Yeah.
Did Hartford have to do that to Boston?
No, that was an agreement in the WHA. So Quebec, Hartford, Winnipeg, all those teams that came, those were the 3 that came in.
Mm.
That was like, they got in, but that was it. None of the other guys were getting in. So
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, that's something that
Hartford had to change their name because they wanted to be called the New England Whalers, and the Bruins said, "Not today, because we own New England, so you'll be Hartford." And that's what happened.
I love when they wear their old unis.
Oh,
When
That's
they,
coming up tonight.
the Avalanche, yeah,
Coming up tonight.
because that whale, the whale tail was just such a, I don't know. I like that logo.
I liked working
know?
there. Yeah.
I love
tell you a
going
good
down
one there.
going to
When
Bruins games.
my mother was 60 years old and she was living in France for her 60th birthday. So I gave her one of my old coaching tops when it got cold. She'd go for walks every day. And she was wearing it. And back then there was no internet, no computer. So she saw in the springtime that I got fired at the end of the year. She had the coat on. She took it off and threw it in the Seine River. Yeah, I loved it. She told me that story so many times. She's still living. She's 90 years old. She's in Montreal, lives by herself, but she was a passionate lady. She loved talking. She was mad at them.
Pierre, that sounds like just like my mother. She's grew up in the project in South Boston. We go to Game 6, Chicago, Boston, right? Where Rooney got us some nice tickets with 10 rows up, right behind Rast. Boom, goal. The Stanley Cup comes out. My mother leaves. I go, Ma, where you going? I go, you're not going to see the Stanley Cup get raised? I'm like, she goes, nope, Boston's not raising it. I'm out of here. Off she went. She went outside and had a cigarette. I'm like, you're not going to see the Stanley Cup? She
My
goes,
dad
nope,
did
I'm
the
out of
same
here.
thing.
She left. She saw her walk out and then screwed.
Well, that was
my
the
dad
game-
did the same thing. He took off, and I was like, "Where'd you go? The Stanley Cup."
That was the game with Bolin and Bickle.
Yes, it was.
B&G.
Yep.
That game plays on repeat in my head still. Like the
I was 10
Zapruder
rows
film.
up from that. I was 10 rows up.
Well, we were doing the game at NBC, and I just remember in the truck, everybody was happy because the TV networks, the longer the series
They didn't want to
goes,
go back.
the
Yeah.
more money they make. So they wanted to go back for Game 7 in Chicago. And they were all excited. And I was like, I'm saying to myself, don't do your touchdown dance at the 5. You never know. Well, there was no Game 7.
Oh,
I blame my father. He was texting Don Garcia, who's also a guest. I saw him. He was in the row in front of me. He goes, Game 7 Chicago, here we come. Let's get tickets. And as soon as I literally grabbed my hat and I smashed him. I called him a mush.
it's awesome. Anyone who wins the
Passion.
cup, you won one, as a coach. What's that like?
It's the first one was amazing. We won in Minnesota, and I was the guy that was in charge of doing all the pre-scouting for the other teams, our opponents. And then Badger would bring me in the room and have me do the breakdowns, video and otherwise, for the team. And what I remember the most about the first cup in '91 in Minnesota was we won 8-0. We won Game 6 8-0 in their building. And what I remember, we were up, and Joe Malash, who forever been in the league, he was our goalie coach, and I worked with him a lot. And all of a sudden, we're in the hallway by the bench, and Joe starts crying. And I was like, damn, like, what's going on? He goes, Pierre, my whole life I've dreamt about this, and I'm about to touch the Stanley Cup. And that's when you realize how important it is. I grew up in Montreal. I was spoiled brat because you watch the Canadiens win all the time. So you just took it for granted. But this was a guy who grew up in Montreal, but was drafted by Chicago and ended up playing out in Oakland and Pittsburgh when they were bad, all these terrible markets where the teams were bad. And he never in his wildest dreams thought he'd be winning the Stanley Cup. And when he got the cup, I swear, I thought he was going to break it. He was squeezing it so hard, and it was amazing. And that was when I realized the legend and the legacy of the cup. That's when I really realized it.
That's amazing. Just, it's something that everyone dreams of. Anyone who played hockey, right? Just dreams of winning that
I
thing.
slept with that baby twice. It never gets old. It never gets old. Right in my bed next to me, and I was hugging it the whole time. The coolest part about the cup is looking at all the names.
Mm.
You start at the beginning and you go all the way, and you're like, wow. And then you see, multiple winners like Jean Beliveau winning 5 straight from 55 to 60, and then you see his last one was in 71. You look at the 67 Leafs, the last time they won the cup, and you see the names that are on there. You're like, Wow. It's a history lesson. The cup's a
Yeah.
history lesson. It really is. It's amazing.
And the referees, I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to work that game too, and they get a moment with the Stanley Cup as well,
They
because I mean
should.
that's what they strive for, that series every single season, and if you're not, you shouldn't be working. But and they get their little moment with the cup too, which is pretty neat. I found that kind of fascinating.
I love that. I think that's great that the league actually does that, and the Hockey Hall of Fame, that's really the caretaker of the cup, does that. One of the, I got to tell you guys, one of the greatest honors I've ever had is to be on the Hockey Hall of Fame selection committee. I got a call 7 years ago from Lanny McDonald, and I thought he was spoofing me. And as soon as he told me that, I was like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "I'm dead serious." I go, "I'm in, man." And he hung up. He says, "Good, we'll send you all the stuff you need to fill out because there's a lot of legal stuff you got to fill out." And I just sat on my bed and I was like, I didn't start visibly crying, but like I had emotion. And then you go to your first meeting at the hall and you're like, I can't believe I'm actually here. Like it's a history lesson. You look at all the people that have come before you, all the great things that have happened in the game. Referees are included in it. It's pretty amazing. It really is. It's pretty amazing.
So I have to ask you this question then, because 2 episodes ago we had Rick Middleton on, and
I was
am
thinking the same
someone
thing.
that believes Rick Middleton should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
There are a lot of people that do. There are a lot of people that believe that. There are a lot of people that think Steve Larmer should be in the Hall of Fame. There are a lot of people that think Paul Henderson, that may have scored the biggest goal in Canadian history, should be in the Hall of Fame in the 72 Summit Series, in Game 8. So I'm telling you guys, I've been so fortunate and blessed to be around so many professional people. I wish, and they'll never do it, and I don't want to get in trouble, but I wish they would do a camera in there to see the presentations, the intensity of the presentations, and the people that are making the presentations. It's one of the most professional things I've ever been part of, and I'm so grateful to witness it. I really am.
Why don't they? Because I mean, the NFL,
There's no
like
real. We don't go too deep in public disclosure. Let's put it that way.
all right, fair enough.
Let's put it that way. That's what all those legal documents are for, Mark.
Right, right. Are you still on that board?
I
Or?
am. I am.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
So usually it's 5 3-year terms. So I just got extended for 3 years. And then I'm looking at 2 more extensions if I get extended. So yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. The cup, it's almost full. What do you think they do? People have talked about.
They take a band down, so it goes by the eldest.
Okay.
And what they do is there's a room in the Hall of Fame where the band that comes off, it goes up.
Right.
And
Okay.
it's omnipresent in the hall. Like everybody that's ever won the cup will always be remembered. I don't know if you guys have been to the hall lately, but
I haven't been at all. We should make a road trip.
I'm telling you
I've been to
guys,
the old
you
and
can do
new
your
one, yeah.
podcast from there because they have a broadcast area there.
Really?
And Kelly Massey's a lady that's in charge of all this stuff, and she is as professional as any woman I've ever met at anything. She's an amazing woman. Yeah, people do podcasts there, broadcasts from there. The Hockey Hall of Fame is an amazing thing. It's an old bank. It's the old Bank of Montreal building. And every time I go there, I learn something new. It's really cool. It's really cool.
But you just put something on our list.
Oh yeah.
If you and I tell you this from the bottom of my heart, because I've enjoyed being with you men. If you ever want to do that, I will put you in touch with Kelly Massey, and I'm telling you, she'll blow you
Really
away.
appreciate
She's
that.
an
Thank
amazing
you.
woman.
Yeah.
She really is.
No, appreciate that. We're taking you up on that for
Good.
sure.
I hope so. That'd be good.
Toronto's in the World Series, right?
Yeah.
Right? No, so hang on.
No, they
So the
are.
last time I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, was Toronto was in the World Series. Joe Carter hit the home.
93.
Joe Carter hit the home run. We were up there for a hockey tournament. My father turns to me and goes, "Hey, do you want to go to the game?" So a bunch of us went. We were in the building when Joe Carter hit that home run. Just happened to be up there. So like, I always tell people it was one of the greatest days. I go, we went, played a game, went to I don't even know if we won or not. We went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, went to the top of the CN Tower, and then went and watched the Blue Jays win it. It was unreal.
Well, you guys would be proud as Bostonians. A few years ago, the great Jerry York got into the Hockey Hall of Fame,
Yes.
and this year will be the induction for the great legendary Jack Parker. So you'll be really proud as Boston guys that both those guys are in the Hall. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty
They're
neat.
icons. They're just larger than life here in Boston.
Yeah, it's amazing. I coached
From a
against
college,
both. I
you
coached
know?
against both of them. It's
That
amazing.
couldn't have been easy.
I think about it now, and this is just how father time goes. And the late great Pat Quinn, I coached against him. The late great Pat Burns, I coached against him. The late great Roger Nielsen, Bill
Wow.
Deneen, all these people that I coached. I was so young when I was doing it. And you coach against these men, and now they've had families, they've been grandfathers, and then like everybody else in society, eventually we all go to the same address, and so I think about it almost every day, because I learned so back in the day, like Al Arbor. Al Arbor was amazing. I'll leave you guys with this one because it's great for the young people to hear this. We used to play the Islanders a lot, whether I was in Pittsburgh or Hartford or Ottawa. I always play, for whatever reason, it seemed like we played the Islanders like every other week. It was crazy. And Al was there, and Al was iconic, 4 straight Stanley Cups in the 80s, like unbelievable coach. And he would always send the trainer over, and he says, "Get the kid over here. I want to talk to him." So the trainer would come and knock on the door and say, "Hey, coach wants to see you." So I'd walk into his office, and he goes, "Hey, you want to smoke?" I said, "No, coach, it's okay." "Coffee?" "Yeah, I'll have a coffee." And he would never talk about hockey. Never. And he'd say, "How's your family? Where are you going next? How's my friend Scott Bowman doing?" Like he'd ask you everything but hockey questions. And all he wanted to do is just make sure that you knew that he knew that he cared about you. That's all he
That's
wanted you to know. We don't have that today.
We don't.
That doesn't happen anymore. And
No.
you guys would know this, especially as officials. I think it's so important. I used to you guys probably have heard some of these stories. When I was coaching the East Coast League, I would tell the officials to come in my office after the game and have a beer so we could talk because I knew their budgets weren't very good.
No, right.
They'd come in and we'd be sponsored by a liquor company, and it was an Anheuser-Busch distributor, and I'd have the guys come in after the game and have a couple beers and some pizza because I knew what their budgets were, and I felt for the guys. Some of
That's how
them
you get the
made it,
makeup
some of
calls
them-
next game.
Well, now they say the video on the bench from the coaches has ruined the relationship between the coaches and the referees. It strains that relationship because, they're seeing it once,
Yeah.
right? And we have to react to it. And we're probably 90%, 99%. And,
like
they're watching things and then they're going, and now the coach is yelling and screaming because they just got to watch it twice. And we had to make a split-second judgment, but I was over there in the corner when it happened. It's sight lines and judgment too.
Gino and Mark, there are 2 things that I think have hurt the relationship at the pro level. One is the video. I completely agree. And the second thing is not having the official's name on their back. And here's how I know that from when I did the games. It's somebody's a number. And so if you walk behind an NHL bench now, they always have a picture and the name of the official of the picture and the number that he wears because they don't know their names. How do you have a relationship with somebody when they're a number and not a name? It's hard to do.
It's
hard to
funny.
do.
I mean, that was
That's a
one thing
great
I always try to do that was build a rapport with the coaches. So like they knew who I was, what they were getting, and they can talk to me. And, right now, like even coming through my years through the American League, half the coaches on the bench, we're all down there and all came up when I was coming through the ranks. So it's kind of, yeah.
But you got to know the guy's name. Do you know what I mean, Mark?
100%.
Hey, you doesn't work. That's a bad way to start a relationship. Mark, can I talk to you about that call? And you're going to say, "Yeah, coach, I'll come over at the next TV timeout." You know what I mean? And if the guy says it to you nicely, you'll come over more than once.
Yep.
But if he says, "Hey,
100%.
number 89, you piece of turd, like, what are you doing?" You're not going over there.
Come on, Liney.
Yeah,
right.
There's another one.
It's true. And when you get to work in a league, like when I was in the East Coast League, I knew all the coaches and they knew me. And again, going back to that one referee, they knew what they were getting, and I knew what I was getting. And I had coaches, Bruce Boudreau was down there at the Mississippi Seawolves.
We played each other 18 times in one season.
Yeah.
Touch me, I
Ted
know.
Sater. And
Taylor was in New Orleans.
and
yeah. And
yeah,
Dougie Shedden,
John Mark
Dougie Shedden
and
was in Lafayette,
Dougie
Louisiana.
Shedden.
Eddie
Doug and I,
Eddie Johnston was in Mobile, Alabama.
yeah.
Bruce
Oh, yeah.
Cassidy was in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, if you go look at some of
Love
the
Bruce.
coaches that were down there,
Yeah.
you'd be Peter Laviolette was in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Yep.
Just telling you.
And who coached at he coached in PD.
Jared
McBride.
Bednar was in South Carolina when they won it. When I was my
Yeah.
first year in the Coast League, I did the finals that year, and they were awesome.
Yep.
Brandon
Rick
Holtby was the
Vive.
goalie.
Rick
Yeah, Rick-
Vive was down in South Carolina.
He
when
was
I
in
was there.
Carolina for a long time, Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah.
His son's still playing, by the way. Ricky Vive's son is still playing. He plays for Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think he's been in the league 12 years or 14 years. He's still playing. Ricky Vive's boy. He's in Cincinnati.
John Brophy.
I coached against him. He was in Hampton Roads. His assistant was
Yeah.
Al McIsaac, Hampton Roads. And Brof and I had so much fun. They were down there. We ended up beating them that game. But I remember Brof and I just sitting in the trainer's room afterwards telling stories about old Maple Leaf Gardens or, the old LA Forum. And Sylvester Stallone's mom would sit right behind the visitors bench and she would taunt you. And so one day, this is a good story. I forgot this when it came up. So I'm walking out of the tunnel in the old Forum in LA, and I'm the youngest coach in the league. And Sylvester Stallone's mom goes, "What are you, the stick boy?"
Chirping him.
Oh, I was laughing my butt. I said, "No, I'm the coach." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, sure." She thought I was messing around.
Love it.
You got chirped by
Oh, it
by
was good.
Sly's mom.
I had to start laughing. Like, you just gotta laugh. What are you gonna
You must have heard some great chirps being in between the benches for the broadcast.
Yeah, lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you say some of them that didn't
No,
make?
because they're mostly off
No.
color. And all I can tell you is Marchand, if you ever get a chance, there's a good tape of it. 2011 Stanley Cup Final, Maxime Lapierre and Brad Marchand. Pierre's playing for Vancouver. Brad's obviously playing for Boston. So I looked at Mark Recchi. I said, who's one of my former players who's playing for Boston, I said, "Hey, tell him to shut up, and I'll tell the Vancouver guy to shut up. Like, this is stupid. Like, they're on camera. This is not good." And I said, the best news for them is it's during a TV timeout. It was bad. I bust Brad's chops about it a few times. One of the funniest ones was, you remember Jarkko Ruutu? Jarkko Ruutu, the Finn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this, and I won't tell you the player, but he was sitting on the Penguins bench, and the Canadians were there playing. And he starts banging on the glass, so the kid comes over, and he goes, "Hey, kid, what's your name?" So the kid says, "You know who I am." He goes, "No, I can't. I don't know who you are. Turn around." So the guy turns around, and he goes, "Hey, I hate to tell you this. They fouled up the writing on your name. I do know who you are now. They wrote your name wrong on the sweater." And the guy's sitting there dumbfounded. He's like, "Holy shit, what's going on?" So he calls the trainer over, and Rutu's laughing his ass off because it's not true.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's one where it was in good taste, but I was like, oh my gosh, he's inside his head. It's unbelievable. He's so inside his head. Anyways, boys, I hate to do this,
No, all
but I
good.
got another show to do, so I kind of have to run.
No.
This is perfect.
Absolutely fine. Just if you can hold on one sec till we wrap it up, just so we can get the recording down.
Yeah.
But Pierre, thank you so much. This has just been incredible.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad Rooney reached out to me. That's great.
We are going to take you up in that Hall of Fame deal.
Oh,
for
we
sure.
should do it. I will set it up for you.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So that's going to wrap it up for episode 85. Chirping Zebras. Want to thank our sponsors, the Referees Crease, Damon Financial LLC, and Townsend Hockey. Also, buddy, Action Jackson, Travis Jackson from Alaska. Want to thank all those guys for supporting the Zebras. Want to make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Smash that button. Find us on all the social medias, the Instagram, the Facebook, and of course,
The TikTok.
and also, we got the new merch page coming out. We got all kinds of new stuff. ChirpingZebras.com. That store will be up in about a week. And if you want to catch up on any shows, they're all on the website. And follow me, MarkRileyComedy.com. Get a little shot in there. Why not? Gino Binda Jr. for Josh Dolan and our great guest, Pierre McGuire. I'm Mark Riley. We'll see you next time right here on the Chirping Zebras.
Awesome.